James Rodriguez stared at the message on his communicator for the fifth time that morning, wondering if his friend Mino had finally lost her mind. The text was simple enough. Blind date tonight, 1900 hours, Sector 7 Cultural District. Her name is Commander Zarathel. Trust me on this one, James. What made him question Mino's sanity wasn't the blind date itself, though it had been 3 years since the Terran-Cytherian peace accords, and interspecies relationships were still rare. No, it was the follow-up message that made him think this was some elaborate prank. Oh, and she's bringing her 6 daughters. It's a cultural thing, don't ask. 6 daughters, to a first date. James had laughed so hard he'd nearly choked on his morning coffee. Now, standing outside the Nexus Gardens restaurant, watching beings of a dozen different species walk past in the evening light, James was beginning to wonder if he'd made a terrible mistake. The Cytherian sector was beautiful, all flowing architecture and bioluminescent plants, but he felt distinctly out of place in his simple human clothes. James Rodriguez? The voice came from behind him, deep and melodious with the characteristic harmonic undertones of Cytherian speech. He turned, and his breath caught. Commander Zarathel was nothing like he'd expected. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, she had the classic Cytherian features: 4 arms, skin that shifted between deep blue and silver depending on the light, and those mesmerizing golden eyes that seemed to hold flecks of starlight. But where he'd expected military sternness, he found warmth. Her expression was nervous, almost shy. "Commander," James said, offering what he hoped was a confident smile. "You can call me James." "Zara," she replied, her secondary arms performing a graceful gesture he recognized as a Cytherian greeting. "And please forgive the unusual circumstances. My daughters insisted on meeting you." James blinked. "Your daughters are actually human!" The excited shout came from 6 young Cytherians who materialized from behind a decorative pillar like a small army. They ranged in age from what looked like teenagers to young adults, all sharing their mother's golden eyes, but with skin tones ranging from deep purple to bright silver. "By the void," Zara muttered, her skin flickering embarrassed shades of purple. "Girls, we discussed proper introductions." But the daughters had already surrounded James, chattering excitedly in a mix of Cytherian and heavily accented standard. The youngest, barely reaching his chest, tugged on his jacket with 2 small hands while pointing at him with her other 2. "You're really human? Like, actually from Earth?" asked the one who appeared to be the eldest, her skin a stunning deep indigo. "I'm Lisa. I wrote my academy thesis on human military tactics during the Outer Rim conflicts." "Lisa, don't interrogate him," said another, swatting her sister's arm. "I'm Kess. I study human music. Is it true you make sounds by blowing air through metal tubes?" James found himself grinning despite the overwhelming situation. "Some instruments, yes, though we also have strings, percussion." "Do you really eat meat from animals?" interrupted a third daughter, her eyes wide with fascination and horror. "Can you show us your teeth?" asked another. "Girls!" Zara's voice carried clear authority, causing all 6 daughters to snap to attention in a way that reminded James exactly who their mother was. "Dinner. Table. Now." As they moved toward the restaurant, the youngest daughter, introduced as Pip, grabbed James's hand with surprising gentleness. Her small fingers were warm, and her touch was oddly comforting. "Don't mind them," Zara said quietly as they walked. "They've never met a human before." When Mino suggested, "Well, they were more excited about meeting you than I was about the date itself." James glanced at her. "You weren't excited about the date?" Zara's skin shifted to a soft silver. What he was learning indicated embarrassment. "I haven't dated in 15 years, and never outside my species. My unit commander said it was time I engaged with civilian life, and Mino thought," she trailed off. "That a human would be safe practice?" James suggested with a wry smile. "Something like that." Zara's harmonics carried what sounded like humor. though I'm beginning to think she underestimated both of us. Dinner was chaos in the best possible way. The daughters peppered James with questions about everything from human reproduction, do you really only have 2 arms your entire life, to earth food, wait, you put fungus on bread and call it pizza? Zara tried to maintain order, but James found himself genuinely enjoying the curiosity and enthusiasm. What surprised him most was how naturally the conversation flowed once they got past the initial awkwardness. Zara was brilliant, a strategic genius who spoke of military theory, with passion, but also showed genuine interest when James talked about his work in xenobiology. Her daughters were each remarkable in their own ways. Lysa the tactician, Kes the musician, Nera the artist, Vex the engineer, Thale the philosopher, and little Pip who seemed to absorb everything with wide-eyed wonder. So, Zara said as they shared a dessert that tasted like starlight and honey, this wasn't quite what you expected. James looked around the table at 6 alien faces watching him with expressions ranging from hopeful to protective to curious. No, he admitted. It was better. The daughters erupted in pleased chittering, their skin colors brightening. Zara's own coloring shifted to warm golds and soft blues. The thing is, James continued, I thought this was going to be some elaborate joke. But sitting here, listening to Lisa explain Catherian battle formations and watching Pip try to figure out how my elbows work, I realized something. What's that? Zara asked softly. Human dating customs are weird, he said. We pretend to be perfect strangers, try to impress each other with fake versions of ourselves, and then wonder why relationships fail. But this? Meeting your family, seeing how you interact with the people you love most, watching how you balance being a commander and a mother, this tells me more about who you are than a dozen normal dates could. Zara was quiet for a moment, her skin cycling through colors James couldn't interpret. Finally, she smiled, an expression that made her alien, features absolutely radiant. Would you like to see them again, she asked. The girls? All of us. James looked around the table once more, at these remarkable beings who had welcomed him with such enthusiasm, at this extraordinary woman who commanded fleets but still worried about her daughter's table manners. I thought you'd never ask. As they left the restaurant, Pip slipped her small hand into his again, and James realized that sometimes the best things in life came disguised as jokes.